On a Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's the Locked On Raptors Book Club. We're talking The Golden Generation by Oren Weisfeld with Oren Weisfeld as we look at Canada basketball over the last 25 years, and RJ Barrett, who's a sneaky important figure in Canada basketball, who just so happens to be playing the best basketball of his life right now. All that coming up on today's show. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, November the 7th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out. Great place to talk ball among pals. And it's, again, 100% free to join. Always. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started here on a special Friday edition of the podcast, a book club edition of the podcast, as we are welcoming in Oren Weisfeld, the author of The Golden Generation. Again, a book that you can buy right now wherever fine books are sold. We're going to talk some Canada basketball stuff. And of course, RJ Barrett, who is in a Raptors jersey on the book. Therefore, it's in theme with the podcast.
He didn't get traded. He didn't get traded. Thank you, Bobby Webster. Yeah.
There you go. He might not get traded now because he's playing his ass off. So we'll talk about that a little later on as well. But Oren, welcome in, man. How's it going? And congrats on the book. It's got to be a bit of a whirlwind to be plugging a book that you've written and now it's just out in the world.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's super cool. I'm super excited for people to read it. I've been working on it for a very long time. So for it to finally be out in the world is amazing. Yeah, it just reminded me though, like on the cover, I had all these debates with myself. Like Dylan Brooks, as you'll see, is in a Canada jersey, right? Mm-hmm. He did get traded this summer. He was going to be in a Suns jersey. Got super lucky though, ended up putting him in a Canada jersey anyways, and then he got traded. Partly because I was like, he might get traded, but then there was all these RJ rumors. What if RJ gets traded? He's in a Raptors jersey. I was just like, please, Bobby, give it like a year. Give it one more year. Give him a chance. And as you said, he's proving that he deserved a little bit more of a chance, playing some really good ball right now.
Yeah, we are going to talk about RJ, I think, to close out the show. But first, I want to dig into some of the nuts and bolts of the book and, some sort of inflection points in Canadian basketball history and, some moments that I think have kind of shaped where we are now in the state of the program. Obviously, the Olympics last summer, a disappointment to lose in the quarterfinals to France, but also the high watermark of the program, maybe ever. And, kind of what everything you talk about in the book here was building towards. And, I guess also kind of serendipitous too, that the release comes while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the defending MVP and finals MVP and is on like a perfect basketball team and all of that stuff. I guess big picture, Oren, kind of digging into the process of the book. And, you cover a lot of time in here from the 2000 Olympics on. Was there any sort of broad takeaways you came away from the process of reporting this out that you kind of felt maybe you didn't have before regarding the development of the program over the years? Maybe the stuff that went wrong, stuff that's gone right that maybe hasn't gotten, enough credit. Sort of what are you thinking about most after all the interviews? I think you interviewed like 100 people for this book. After all of that reporting, what are your sort of prevailing takeaways about why the program is what it is today?
First, I'll go in a bit of a different direction because I wasn't sure. Is that like my biggest takeaway in general was that, I started this book originally planning on doing a Canada basketball book, and that was really going to be like the central theme. And I was just going to go off that and highlight some of the players. What I realized was that would be doing a kind of disservice to the actual people in the grassroots communities who really built up this infrastructure for Canadian basketball to thrive. So my big takeaway is honestly that this growth that we see, this infrastructure that's new, it's really mostly been done in spite of the government and the powers that be, in spite of the corporations that had the opportunity to pour money into this and didn't and chose hockey. Like, these people were really battling against these things and just chose to do it anyways, volunteering in many cases countless hours into the gym to start prep programs, to start clubs, parents, you know, pouring their love and wisdom into kids. So I think that's my big takeaway, is like, it was actually done in spite of. And that was something I had to square. Like, how come we're having so much success with all these kids producing NBA players, and yet Canada basketball can't make it to the biggest competition in sports for 24 years? Like, how are these two things not squaring? In terms of your question, like, why did it happen? I think a big part of it is, you know, I give Rowan Barrett a lot of credit, who's currently the GM there. He was really the first manager there to go into those communities, into the grassroots communities, and say, like, we need you guys. We want you to be a part of Canada basketball. All this tension that existed in the past for reasons I get into in the book. Let's scrape that and, like, let's work a bit more together. Of course, there's still tension. There always will be, but this generation of kind of management of Canada basketball was the first to go in and say, like, let's try to work together. Let's merge, like, the white collar world and the blue collar world in Canada, in Canadian basketball. And I think that's why now the best players show up, and that's why they're having success.
Yeah, I mean, the growth, the sort of the commitment, and I guess, like, the sort of the ask that the management team led by Rowan Baird had of the talented group of players that they ended up bringing to the Olympics, right? Like, they changed basically the standard for, it's like what's going to get you involved in this team, and you had to buy in, you had to commit for the you know, the stretch of what was it, 3 years that they had to commit before the Olympics. Like, do you think that's kind of here to stay, like the new structure, like, you know, just like tasting the Olympics the way they did? Like, is it just, do you figure this is just kind of the new normal now, and, you know, we should hope that the next 25 years will be full of fewer fits and starts to kind of get where they want to go? Obviously, there's still things they want to do, they've yet to accomplish with this generation of players, but it seems as though now they've kind of gotten the sort of how do we do it kind of ironed out in a way they didn't in maybe the sort of 2010s, when, you know, you go into it in the book, right? Just sort of the trouble with preferential treatment for the NBA players versus the guys who were, you know, kind of grinding it out unseen, the Andy Routenses of the world, right? You know, do you feel like it's kind of been solved now in a way it wasn't in, you know, a decade ago?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think it has, for the most part. I'll go back a little bit and say, like, Canada basketball didn't really know what they were doing for a long time, because they had NBA players for the first time, and they just wanted them under any circumstances. So they basically said, show up when you can, even if it's literally the day before a competition. In the case of Corey Joseph in 2019, come, we want you. We'll provide whatever you need. And that backfired, of course. Like, the pros in Europe weren't happy with that. And it also set this precedent where NBA guys were like, okay, well, maybe I'll show up this year. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll come at the last minute. So I give Nick Nurse credit here. He was the one that went to Rowan Barrett after the loss to the Czech Republic in 2021. In the hotel, he found Rowan and he found Glenn Grunwald, the CEO, and he said, like, we can't keep doing it this way. We're not going to win if we just keep throwing together all-star teams at the last second. That's how they came up with this idea for a 3-year core, which I also get into some details in the book of, like, the meeting that led to that, and Shai stepping up, interrupting Nurse, talking about why he was committed. All of that to say, it worked out pretty well. I think Canada basketball went back a little bit on their word in the Olympic year and asked for some guys who weren't a part of that 3-year core. And we'll see, honestly, how that, like, maybe backfires as well. But in general, the new coach, Gordie Herbert, he's an international guy. He comes from the FIBA background. I feel confident that he's going to ask at least for, like, a 2-year commitment, whether it's the 27 World Cup, in order to play in 28. It just wouldn't make sense to go back on the one thing that had success in this program's history and to now say, like, oh, just come whenever you want. And the other thing, like, lastly, I'll say is that the talent pool is now so big. We have 25 Canadians in the NBA. If a couple guys are like, no, I'm not going to give it 2 years, I can't, you have to be confident in your program and say, like, all right, sorry, but we're going to go with the other 20 guys that can do it, right? And, like, even if that means an all-star isn't going to be playing, I think Canada basketball has to stick to some sort of commitment model.
Yeah, like a serious program can withstand that, right? And obviously, you hope it's not one of the uber stars, right? Like one of
Right.
the core dudes. But
Right. Like someone asked me the question, what if Zach Edey says no? Like that
right.
is tough. That's tough.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
not that many talls.
Yeah.
Yeah, are the next 25 years going to be full of more tall guys playing basketball in Canada? Or the most important question we could possibly ask here. Yeah, let's continue on here. We're going to come back on the other side here, Oren, and get into some of the inflection points over the last 10, 15 years in particular that have kind of led us to where we are now. And mostly we're just going to wallow in old Canada basketball heartbreak. Venezuela in 2015, boy, oh boy, that sucked. We'll revisit that and more coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA season's heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights of your fantasy team or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every single time an NBA player drops 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag, which includes all kinds of stuff. Player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. It's not just food either. You can get everything from snacks and drinks to headphones, ice, even socks, all delivered via DoorDash. DoorDash has you covered for late-night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel up. So next time someone goes out for 50, use the promo code NBA50 the next day for 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. It ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashinYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's show is also brought to you by Doer, a new sponsor we have here on the podcast, and it's a local one, baby, because they got a new store, 44 Ossington Avenue. You can go to Doer and check out their wonderful line of all kinds of denim, T-shirts, whatever it is. The shirt I'm wearing right now is a Doer shirt, and let me tell you, I'm particular about my shirts. This one is very comfortable, breathable, light, and it looks all right on me, and not many shirts look all right on me. You've seen me on the podcast. This is a miracle Doer is pulling off right now. Of course, you can go and check out their wonderful line of denim. Their jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, and they're antibacterial, meaning your jeans stay fresh longer. You can wear more and wash less. I hate washing my jeans. It's so annoying. I have like 2 pairs that actually fit me, and I don't need to have them in the wash. So if I can wear them more often, beautiful. And Doer sending me another pair. I will have 3 pairs of jeans very, very soon. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. Best of both worlds. They make the best and most comfortable pants in the world without having to sacrifice style. It's simple as that. And you can, again, check out Doer at their store here in Toronto at 44 Ossington Avenue. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Mention my promo code LOCKEDONToronto in store for 15% off your first order, or check them out online at duer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's doer.ca/LockedOnToronto. Go check it out. Back at it here with Oren Weisfeld talking The Golden Generation, a wonderful book about how Canada became a basketball powerhouse. You can go buy it wherever books are sold now. Oren, some stuff happened in the 2010s where my faith in Canada basketball was rocked to its core. I think I certainly would classify myself as, for times, a sort of Canada basketball skeptic, and I sort of, you get excited for an off-season cycle, and then you kind of get let down, and then be like, okay, well, this doesn't really matter. Maybe I understand why the pro players don't care so much about this and all of that, and kind of repeat that cycle within my own sports fan brain. Obviously, it feels like it's at a different spot now, as we've talked about. But I want to go back to a couple of the inflection points of Canada basketball that you get into in the book, and I guess sort of the importance that those hold in kind of shaping how things have situated themselves now. And the main one for me, one of the sort of sneaky biggest sports heartbreaks, which, now having been, watching the Toronto Blue Jays this year, all other sports heartbreaks pale in comparison. But for a time, 2015 against Venezuela was one of the biggest ones. The FIBA Americas semifinals, the Canadian team goes 7-1 in the group stage, look like they're primed to make the final and make the Olympics. All you got to do is beat Venezuela without Grievous Vasquez and a couple other starters in the semifinals to go in advance. And they lose in heartbreaking fashion with Kelly Olynyk slipping on a decal and a weird last-minute foul call, sort of a phantom one that gives Venezuela the go-ahead free throws. Heartbreaking stuff. It felt like kind of, especially with the whiplash of earlier that summer, the 2015 Pan Am Games and Jamal Murray going off and taking
Mhm.
down the U.S. and getting the silver in that tournament. It just felt like, okay, it's all building towards something. And then it all falls flat against Venezuela. What are your memories of that game in particular? And in the book, and I guess sort of not just beyond the book, but just sort of the grand scheme of Canada basketball, what kind of importance do you think that loss holds in shaping what has come in the following 10 years?
Yeah. So, like, to provide a bit of context,
Yeah.
because I had to go back and really look into these things, 9 NBA players on that Canadian team. For
Yeah.
context, that's more than Canada had in 2021 in Victoria. It's more than they had in 2023 at the World Cup, where they beat Spain and USA. Like, it's a lot of NBA players to lose to a small country in Venezuela who is missing 3 starters. Uh, Going back to watch the game, it's insane just how everything that possibly could go wrong went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a couple of those things, but definitely what stands out to me, what I'll remember, is the foul on Aaron Dornekamp.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of my favorite interviews. I shouldn't say favorite because it was pretty depressing, but like talking to Aaron about it, like he just talked about going to his hotel room after and just not being able to go to sleep, not being able to get over that play. He talked about how he barely played for Canada after that, in part because of how much it reminded him of that moment and how badly he felt and how it was hard for him to kind of get over it. And it served as a reminder each time he played for Canada. So like this goes to show a little bit about like how passionate these guys are and how much these kind of moments can stick with them and change the trajectory of a country or a program. So yeah, that was a big one. I think like the way I talked about it in the book was it really revolved around this generation of finally getting players to the NBA. And they had a bunch of players. They had a bunch of kind of like role players, mostly four-year college guys who just kind of suck in the NBA. They didn't have a star. But finally, Andrew Wiggins comes into the league, and he doesn't play for the national team for a few years when he's in college, and then his first year with Minnesota. But then he's like 2015, okay, I'm ready to play. And it was just like this huge sigh of release for everyone where it was like, finally, we have a star we can build this thing around, put the ball in his hands at the end of games. We're going to win. We're going to go to the Olympics. And Wiggins didn't show up in that game. That was, I know, really hard for him as well. And that I think when it comes to like what it maybe did for the program, like guys talk to me. Sorry, I was just remembering. Guys talk to me about how back then they didn't have hierarchy. They didn't have guys in their roles. Everyone was the first time in the NBA, and they thought they should start on the national team. They thought they should have the ball in their hands. And it was really hard for Jay Triano to be like, you're going to come off the bench. You're going to have this specific role. And guys struggled to buy into that. And I don't want to call them like selfish, but guys didn't understand like how much they had to sacrifice to win. And that's what guys talked to me about, like Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell, how as the years went on, people were a little bit more willing to sacrifice and to buy into these rules and to establish a hierarchy. So I think that moment was really the first in trying to get that understanding of like where we were going to have to go as NBA players on the national team.
Is having someone as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now as like the face of the program, like, does that only help when it comes to the hierarchy stuff? Because it's just so undeniable. It's just like, yeah, I'm the dude. Everyone else kind of fills in around me. And I don't think he's like abrasive about it or anything like that, because I don't think that's what Shai's like at all. It's just not the vibe you get from him. But like, it's sort of this just like quiet understanding of, like he's better than all of us. Therefore, we'll all kind of fall in behind him.
So I think that's a good question, because the answer would have been yes up until 2024, where I think, I have this quote in there about how Jamal Murray now knows it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's team. But going into 2024, he probably had some idea in his head that like, hey, last time I played for Canada, I went off against Team USA. I'm a really good player. I should have as much of the ball as he does, and that sort of stuff. I think these things, it's a continuous evolution in terms of that hierarchy. Now I think it's very obvious that it's Shai's team, but even 2024, I think there was maybe some conflicts there. So yes, like most guys definitely understand that Shai's going to have the ball and they're going to benefit from the gravity he creates. But at the same time, I think it actually takes like experience. You can't just see it. You actually have to be there on the team in those games, maybe have disappointment before you can fully buy into that.
Speaking of disappointment, if we're going down the road of old heartbreaks, 2021 at home, the Czechs, Thomas Sadaransky, the last chance Olympic tournament before, I guess it was the delayed Olympics that year because of COVID.
Yeah.
That one hurt. It obviously, I don't think it's had maybe the sort of long-reaching tale of despair because they made the Olympics in 2024 and they had the World Cup bronze and the success there, and 2021 was still the fake times. Like everything was made up and nothing mattered because it was all end of the world stuff going on. But did that have like a similar effect, do you think, of sort of maybe just kind of making people realize like, okay, we got to change the way things are done here? Obviously, like the 3-year commitment thing comes right after this. Like I think maybe less of a gut punch to me, at least, and maybe to some than the Venezuela loss was, or just kind of like resonates a little less, but similarly important, right?
Yeah, so I was really surprised. I asked Andrew Wiggins which one hurt more, as you do, and he said the Czech one hurt way more.
Okay,
which surprised me. I think part of it was the fact that they were playing at home. Like,
right,
this group of Canadians, paid all this money to get the first men's basketball tournament in Canada since 1994, when Hamilton and Toronto hosted the World Championship. And it just seemed like, okay, it's finally coming together. We have 7 NBA players. We're in a pretty easy group. We're at home. There's fans for the first time in Canada since the pandemic. Like, we have no excuses not to do this. But actually, if you watch the game, the Czechs outplayed them from tip. Like, it was very similar to what happened against France, where a lack of size just hurt them. However, like, I was there at that game. That was really my introduction to covering Team Canada. And there was this moment where it was like, oh my God, the finally, like, fate is catching up to this Canadian team, and like something's going to go right for them, because they come from like a 10-point deficit with literally like 4 minutes left. Nikhil gets 2 stops in a row and steals it, and Wiggins hits 2 big shots. They go to overtime, and it's just like, wow, like we're going to do this. Like, Nick Nurse draws up this brilliant play for Trey Lyles, who misses like a wide open shot, and then it just all goes downhill from there in overtime. So yeah, that was an equally tough one to rewatch. It again seemed like everything went wrong at the end of the game when they should have been there. But like I said earlier, that was when Nick went to the hotel and told Rowan and told Glenn, like, we need to do things differently, because, as I get into in the book, these guys had 3 practices. They didn't play a single scrimmage before that tournament. Now, part of that was COVID and like adhering to the rules, which some of the other countries did not do. Part of that was just the way the program was always run, where guys could come at the last minute if they wanted to. They didn't know who was actually going to be in camp until the last minute, all of this stuff. So I think that was definitely like one loss too many for them to be like, we can't do things the same way anymore.
Yeah, and obviously it was the genesis of this wonderful book from you. It was your moment zero or whatever. We're gonna come back on the other side here, Oren. Talk about RJ Barrett as we tie it back to the Toronto Raptors. He's been damn good to start the season. We'll talk a little about that and his place in Canada basketball history. It's kind of a significant one considering his role in winning the men's team's only gold ever, right? Or in the under 18s in 2018. We will get into that and more coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss out on the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets in the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, even when your team's making that late push, or especially when your team's making that late push. Of course, it's not just the NBA. You can go throw some money around on the football action this weekend, college and otherwise. You've got your NHL nightly money line lines as well. And you've got long-term futures bets on things like where will Kyle Tucker sign in MLB free agency? Who will win the World Series next year? I think the Blue Jays are kind of like distant, like fourth or fifth longest odds in the or fourth or fifth shortest odds, that is, in the American League next year. That seems silly. If you think that they can go and do the thing again and continue the redemption tour, a la the 2013 and 14 San Antonio Spurs, now is the time to get some money down on the Blue Jays doing the thing next year over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers are going to get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, which is the way to play daily fantasy sports. You all make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right about your decisions can get you paid. Isn't that sweet? Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, NHL, or both, or all of them. There's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get them right, you win. It's that simple. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So go check it out. Again, if on a night of NBA Cup action tonight, very busy action across the NBA, maybe you want to take the more on Brandon Ingram points or Scotty Barnes blocks. Those have been pretty good bets so far this year. You can go do that over at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Pick app today and use the code LOCKEDINNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDINNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Wrapping it up here with Oren Weisfeld talking RJ Barrett, who is a figure in The Golden Generation, your wonderful book, which you can go and buy wherever fine books are sold. Once again, I will keep on hucking this book for you, my friend. And so I just kicked my desk and nearly knocked everything over. RJ Barrett has been damn good to start the season. You talk about him and his role in winning the gold medal with the under-18 team, sort of the peak of success for Canada basketball for a moment there. And, arguably still the peak of success, although obviously higher profile tournaments they've appeared in, won the bronze in the World Cup, made the Olympics, etc. And now he is the best Canadian player on the Toronto Raptors, arguably, actually, maybe not even arguably, the best Canadian player in Raptors history. Yeah. And like, that feels like it means something. Like, do you feel like that means something?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, like the Raptors have had these Canadians, Corey Joseph for sure, Chris Boucher, Jamal McGlure for a minute, but none of them were like stars. Most of them weren't even starters. None of them were like guys who had the ball in their hands, scorers, who fans, could really rally around. And RJ almost has this like dual thing where he's not like the best player on the team. He's kind of in this beloved role player role because he's not like an Ingram or a Scotty where he's depended upon to win them games. So he is like that beloved role player. And then he also has the fact that he's Canadian and he grew up near here. So I think it's certainly a big deal. I was just looking at this, like RJ has like the 6th most bought jersey in Canada in terms of NBA jersey sales. So I think he's right behind Shai for that one. So yeah, it's a big deal. And if he keeps playing like this, it'll probably only grow.
Yeah, and I think like coming into the year, there was plenty of trade speculation about him in the summer, and then just looking at his contract situation, he's got a year and a half left now, or 2 years. He's a free agent at the end of next season, and the way the team has been kind of angling itself, it's kind of said out loud, hey, like RJ's probably not getting his next contract from the Raptors. I think the way he's played to start this season, the way he's been such a seamless fit with Ingram and Barnes, I think the opportunity here for him to stick around longer is certainly like the door has opened up in a way I'm not sure it was in the summer when his name was floating around and the cover of your book was in serious jeopardy. And so I guess sort of, just putting on your, basketball observer hat right now, like, what do you think's working with RJ right now? And do you now have some room and sort of openness to the idea of, hey, maybe he is just part of the solution long-term here?
I think he's part of the core. I think like what happens is sometimes people get a bit ahead of themselves and they overthink things. And ultimately the Raptors should still be in a stage of like building out talent. Who are our most talented players? Let's figure it out from there. And RJ is clearly among their 3-4 most talented players. He's proving that. Of course, like in Emmanuel Quickly, on paper, it makes sense to have his shooting, right? It makes sense to have the off-ball stuff he does. But in the games, who is providing a more winning impact? I think it's clearly RJ. So I think when it comes down to like the simplicity of it, RJ's doing in. And what was the second part of your question?
Just like, yeah, as far as like the longer term outlook for the team, you know, are you kind of more, yeah, like it feels like he's like just planning himself into the plans a little bit more with what he's doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think if anything, it should put a bit more pressure on guys like Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, and Jacoby Walter, who maybe it was assumed by a lot of the fans that like those guys were going to stick around because they're younger, they're on these rookie contracts, they have more upside theoretically. I think those guys are probably looking around a little bit right now and saying like, okay, we have a lot of shooting guards on this roster. RJ's playing really, really well. I don't think I'm coming for his starting spot anytime soon. To me, that's where it would naturally go at the trade deadline is Bobby might look to trade one of those players to get a big, to get a point guard rather than offloading RJ. But, you know, stranger things have also happened. Like you could argue that he's at the peak of his trade value. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there's the other sort of side of that coin, right? Where like if he's playing this well, maybe he becomes like it's like the DeMar thing almost, where DeMar DeRozan got so good that it convinced the San Antonio Spurs, yes, let's take him for Kawhi freaking Leonard.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that that's going to happen in any sort of similar fashion with RJ, but yeah, I mean, they're a team that should kind of be open to all possibilities. And one of the possibilities that, yeah, like fair enough. Like I did not give it all that much credence that this was going to go down this way. I thought RJ was going to kind of be a bit of the creaky wheel in the starting five. That is not borne out at all. And like this is one of the ways this could have gone, which is like, yeah, okay, he's playing himself into the plans. And maybe it's a guy like Quickly who's maybe got to sort of keep an eye on, hey, am I going to be the guy who gets flipped now or something like that? And I mean, look, man, I'm a sucker for the sentimentality side of things too. And RJ talking, what was it, last week about just sort of how important it is to him to make it work in Toronto. Like, keep him around forever. It's that stuff really works on me. Like,
yeah, look, the Raptors, like, I know you're like saying that half jokingly, but the Raptors aren't exactly in a position here where everyone is like fascinated by what they're doing, right? Like they have lost a lot of casual viewers over like this Blue Jays run over the last 3 years where they've just been terrible. So I do think there's actually something to that. We're having this hometown kid who represents, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where Masai Ujiri said like, we want people in the building who want to be here.
Sure.
You know, OG Anunoby didn't necessarily want to be a Raptor that bad. And the fact that he traded him for RJ Barrett, I think is telling in a sense where they want guys who actually want to be Raptors. So RJ deserves a ton of the credit here, right? Because like he doesn't have the ball in his hands as much. He's not getting plays run for him. But the main thing is he's really improved as a shooter. And that's obviously like helping his efficiency. And he makes it happen. I mean, he somehow gets to that left hand, no matter how much space is there. He's knocking down shots. I really like the quote he gave me that I'm just going to plug in the book.
Please
because
do, yeah.
I think your viewers will find it fun. Like before the game, you'll see RJ. He has this elaborate routine where he flips a switch on his head. He does a bunch of things around his body, and then he flips a switch on his head. And I asked him about like, what is that? And he said like, well, there's two people. There's RJ and there's Rowan Barrett Jr. And he said, Rowan Barrett Jr., chill guy, likes to hang out with his friends, play cards, whatever. And he's like, RJ, that's a dog. And when I flip the switch, I'm going to RJ. So look out for that before the games.
I love that. Yeah, man, it's been a really fun early part of the season story. And, you know, there's something to the idea of the best Canadian in Raptors history having a bit of a longer rope than maybe we expected. And, you know, who knows? Maybe it lays the groundwork for more of his countrymen to be like, that's where I want to be. I know the dreams of Shai ever coming here seem dead as the Thunder or dynasty in the making and all of that. But, you know, it feels like it has to matter to some degree that he is doing what he's doing and so happy about doing it. And maybe it's just he's really, really trying to avoid getting sent back to the United States of America in the year of our Lord 2025, which, hey, fair enough. That's a motivating factor that I could totally understand.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Yeah. Well, last one I have for you, just kind of on, you know, RJ is obviously a byproduct of the rise of the Raptors. He calls himself a DeMar DeRozan guy and all that stuff from, that prime era of the team. Have we like fully prepared ourselves? I know there was like the Vince Carter effect and the wave of players that came upon the Raptors becoming an NBA franchise. I still think we're a few years out from seeing this, but have we really reckoned with like the next 25 years of Canada basketball maybe being defined by the post-title generation, like the people who were 6, 7, 8 years old watching the Raptors win a championship? Maybe what that did to even sort of accelerate and kickstart like another wave. Like the golden generation is here, but like could it get even more golden based on that?
Yeah. So I'll say two things on that. Zach Eady tells a story where him and his boys got in a car when they won the championship and drove downtown to Dundas Square and celebrated like the rest of us. And he said like that was the first time I felt like Canadians really like belonged in the NBA. And like we really, it gave him some sort of confidence. And so of course, I think that Raptors impact, it's hard to even put it into words what it will have on the future generations. I also think the one that isn't talked about, but to me is obviously interesting because I am biased here, is like international basketball. I was in Greece this summer and I met this guy who said, my favorite player is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I said, why? You're Greek. And he said, because you guys played us. We beat them in the Olympics, right? In the group stage. And he was like, I just loved the way he played. I just loved him. And that was like his introduction to Shai. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting that this Greek guy is like, so to me, it's like, okay, Canadians watched that. They saw what happened in 24. It wasn't this huge thing because they didn't have success. But if Canada ever gets that medal in an Olympic Games or even a gold medal in a World Cup in the next, few years, I think that is also going to be one of those moments too, where it inspires so many people, not just in Canada, but around the world.
Yeah, well said, man. I think a good place to leave this off. The book is The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. Oren Weisfeld, thank you so much for coming on, man. Anything you want to promote? I mean, obviously, the book, but
I'll
like,
just say,
where can people get it? Do you have any events going on? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's only $25, Indigo, Amazon, wherever you get your books, and it makes for a good Christmas holiday gift if you're getting your shopping done early. But yeah, appreciate all the support with the book. We're trying to get it to #1, and thank you for having me.
Of course, brother. That's going to do it for this week of pods. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for, joining the Discord, following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that good stuff. It's always appreciated when you support the show. However it is you choose to support the show. We'll be back again on Monday to talk about hopefully the NBA Cup victory for your Toronto Raptors against the Atlanta Hawks on Friday, and then another game against the Sixers on Saturday night. We got a couple of games we'll be digging into on Monday, and we'll do our usual stuff. Joe Wolfond will be back next week as he's going to be new bi-weekly contributor to the show. We got Big V, Katie Heindel, all that good stuff. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. And in Canadian fashion, I don't have my basketball handy, so I have a hockey puck. So I'm going to shoot the hockey puck at the rim and see if I score a basket to close off the week. Thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye. Nope, I should shoot a ball next time.